Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You're watching Clone with a Wand broadcast. I'm returning today to my series breaking down each episode of Star Wars Visions, and today we'll be focusing on Episode 2, Tatooine Rhapsody. The video will be an opinion piece alongside the breakdown, and will include a clip from my recent chat about Visions with my friend Din of F105. The episode succeeded as a rhapsody, which is an enthusiastic expression of feeling or emotion. Everywhere else, however, it still succeeded. You were expecting me to say it flopped, huh? Okay, I've had my fun. Tatooine Rhapsody was an awesome story, revolving around something that made Star Wars what it is, defining scenes and characters expertly, and has become iconic itself: music. Music is tragically underrepresented in Star Wars, though the music of Star Wars, like I said, has played a huge part in making it the icon it is. Music inside the Star Wars universe still plays a big role, like Figrin Dan and the modal nodes in A New Hope, or Max Rebo's Jizz Wailers in Return of the Jedi, or Shog Kava in Maz Kanata's castle in The Force Awakens. There's even rock music playing in the introduction sequence of the video game Jedi Fallen Order. So admittedly, there's a fair amount of bands in Star Wars. But give me an example of a decent amount of screen time for bands, or how much we actually learn about them, outside of books, compared to the amount of information about random background characters. Exactly. So Tatooine Rhapsody checked a major box in that regard for me. And by that same token, listen to this clip about Tatooine Rhapsody with Din. So one thing I wanted to mention was I have my own theory about this. I think that, well, my own opinion really. I think that some of these stories should be inserted into canon as folklore within the universe, and that the rest should just be inserted into regular canon, like the Bounty Eve classic um, band episode. I know you really enjoyed that one. I think that would be really cool to insert into canon.
To
But then,
canon.
yep, I think it would
Wow.
be something completely wacko to put in regular canon alongside something as serious as The Last Jedi.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
really funny. My only thing is like the music's just a little too much this world to be canon to me. Like I always like how Star Wars made otherworldly type music, but other than that,
True.
I could see the rest of it as canon. But the music's just so. By the way, watch that episode in Japanese. Way better. J-pop rock has to be heard in Japanese. The Japanese version of that song is the best one.
Yeah, I thought it. I didn't watch it in Japanese. I'll have to do that. But at first I did think the song wasn't that amazing until they performed it live, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much better now. Um, but like when the part where he kind of screams, "You are okay," I'm like, at first. And then they do it live. I'm like, dude, this is so cool. It's like another step of his personal journey.
Yeah, I think there's like rock music in Japan, there's a sense of rebellion that comes with it there for cultural reasons.
Hmm.
And that's why it's still really vibrant and loved in Japan. You know, we live in the current musical climate isn't big on rock music, but it is in Japan. And I think you feel that more when you watch the Japanese version of this episode, that episode.
Okay.
But I also really kind of annoyed at that episode because it stole my movie idea.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you more about your movie idea as well. So we
Well, I'm
can.
actually writing a movie with my friend Dominic Jones from Star Wars Underworld. I've always had this idea since high school for a movie called Space Junk, based on me and my friend who sort of whisked away into this space adventure, and people think of us galactic adventure as junk, you know. So, but and then over the last decade, because I'm really into ufology and ancient civilizations and aliens and all that,
Mhm.
and I just always really earnestly wondered, there's got to be like musical acts out there that tour the galaxy, like musical acts tour our planet. And what would it sound like and look like? What would a galactic tour be like? Would be like, what would the what would be the the mischief that bands would get up to? Because that's what happens when you're on traveling through the
Mhm.
galaxy as a band. And then we started writing that script, and then this episode comes along and basically is that idea. And,
Yeah,
so first they stole my name for the Mandalorian, and now this. So like, come
I
on,
know you really got to get
Lucasfilm,
working on
I'm
this whole
sending.
plagiarism suit, man.
Yeah, I gotta send my lawyers after Disney.
Yeah, I was writing a fan fiction a few years ago that I've kind of dropped. It was one of those clone rebellion ones where after the war, a bunch of clones get together and try to fight the Empire and stuff. It was one of those, and then on YouTube, I see this series of this guy doing Star Wars Men of War. It's a video game. They're doing these mods that recreate these little battle scenes the guy came up with. I'm like, man, now if I post that fanfic, everyone's going to think I stole it off of you.
Yeah. So there's this like I said, I was talking about ancient civilizations, and part of that study in aliens comes with studying technologies. Um, so if you look at like the history of technology, even patents in the world, people will get like the same new inventive idea at the same time in different points of the world, and they weren't in communication with each other, but they'll get it at the same time, and they'll even file the patent at the same time. So
Wow.
there's some people theorize that there's a collective consciousness, and
Huh.
and all through history that's what's happened with tech and invention. So if that's comforting,
Yeah.
I don't know, you're connected.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a similar but also not similar idea to the one you were just talking about with the movie that they blatantly stole from you. Um,
Well, it's just such a weird idea too. Like, how did they like
yeah.
how? What are the chances of like at the same time? Some others like that's not a normal Star Wars idea. So we thought
Yeah.
we had this really unique film that no one had ever seen before in mind. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a similar but also not similar idea about this one character. She's a singer and she goes to Coruscant and performs in a nightclub while also spying for the rebellion. I've started working on that concept a little bit, but
Oh,
I
that's
think
cool.
I think a lot of people. I was talking to Sarah Woloski at Skywalking about this too. I think a lot more people want to see more about music in Star Wars, and I think that that's a an idea that they need to start looking into more.
Right. Well, develop your idea. You never know where that'll go. That sounds cool.
Exactly. Yeah. I,
And I love the location too. Like that whole, I want to see that explored more. Coruscant, the underworld and underbelly and the seedy club stuff. I love that stuff.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people want to see more of Coruscant. I mean, Lucasfilm was developing that Coruscant game 1313 before they
Mm.
canceled it. A lot of people want to see
Yeah, we
more
need
of
to
that
see
stuff.
those visuals in a show or movie for sure.
We really do. Now, let's break it down. The very first scene in the episode led me to believe that the main character, Jay, was running away from Order 66. The planet he was on just looked like Coruscant, and he looked like he could have been running away from attacking clones. But another look at the first shot in the episode showed both clone troopers and battle droids, so it's unclear what he was running from. I don't know if droids also landed on Coruscant to aid Grievous in capturing Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith, or if it was just him. Either way, I loved seeing a solid start to the episode. Don't move on yet, though. I recently found out that the music for that scene is called Order 66. So Jay was in fact escaping Order 66, meaning that droids did land on Coruscant when Grievous captured Palpatine. That newsflash concluded, now let's move on. The first time I saw Jay performing, I thought, well, the song is weird. But on my second listen, I actually enjoyed it. It's a really good song that encapsulates the overall story of the episode. The audience of the first performance of the episode made this nerd very happy, since it brought back not only several Star Wars species, which I'll talk more about later, but also Boba Fett. And who returned to voice Boba Fett in the English dub of the episode? Temuera Morrison, who played Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones and Boba Fett in The Mandalorian, and who will be playing Boba Fett again in the Book of Boba Fett. It was so cool to see Boba Fett return, and to see firsthand that he won't hesitate to disintegrate if necessary. Speaking of, the reference to the long-standing disintegrations joke was also great. Then, Guy laughs out his line about Jabba wanting his autograph, and I loved that his line evoked an expression on every other member of the band, like, I'm used to this, but it still hurts. Now, can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that each one of the band's instruments are weaponized? That's just awesome. This is the kind of creativity Star Wars needs. During the fight, V5 comes to Jay's rescue, and the Wilhelm scream returns to Star Wars again. Ag! The shot of Boba calmly walking through the crowd firing at the band was also awesome, as it really exemplified the cool, cold Boba of olden days. One thing I have to criticize just a tad is Boba's head position when he's flying. That head wasn't tilted up. It was full on standing straight like he didn't have bones. But this is anime, not live action. One must make allowances or risk losing enjoyment of their fandom. Boba Fett chasing the ship was pretty cool, and I'm sure the animator had fun with it. But many of the interior shots of the rolling gales felt way too slow for me. The ship is under attack and they keep focusing on the same character or area of the ship for way too long, with too little going on. Just my opinion. I was looking at Guy's eyes, and I'm wondering if he's wearing some kind of contacts. He can certainly see, since he sees where his guitar landed after their ship crashed. But why are his eyes completely purplish circles when Jabba's are, well, normal? In the shot where Boba shoots Guy's guitar, I noticed some kind of leaves or decoration hanging up in the cockpit. Did Star Wars just introduce their first ever cockpit freshener? I smell marketing and freshener. Anyway, Boba takes Guy, and I was surprised that Boba didn't kill Jay for trying to attack him with his lightsaber. However, after thinking about it some more, it made sense. Jay pulled out what looked like a lightsaber, but didn't work. Boba couldn't kill some kid over pulling out what looked like it could have been a lightsaber. Plus, Jay didn't act like a Jedi. A Jedi in a rock band? No way. Plus, even if Jay's lightsaber had worked, Boba might have just seized the saber and left, perhaps assuming that Jay had just gotten one off of the black market. Plus, Jay's Force abilities are probably a bit rusty, since several years have passed between his leaving the Jedi Order and Boba Fett's third time chasing after Guy and the band. So there's actually little logic to support Boba going after Jay. Another criticism I have is that Boba lowered his blaster too quickly, after Jay failed to activate his lightsaber. It was realistic, but I think him holding his blaster up for another moment, and then laughing and saying, "Take my advice, kid, stay away from huts," would have been more dramatic. I like that Guy just doesn't care about Hut legacy at all. He just wants to do what he does, and Guy is the first Hut I've ever seen wearing a shirt. That's my ADHD kicking in. Fun fact, Star Waver even has their own logo. You can see it on the back of V5, and on the side of the ship, named the Rolling Gales, and on Guy's shirt. And those little space mice are so cute. Oh, yeah, we're back to analyzing in chronological order. Curdy's speech was sad, but though she is quite a unique C-3PO inspired droid, droids still can't quite feel human emotion. In Jay's flashback to his first meeting with Guy, he falls into a hall of rock guitars in what may be the Rolling Gales. How awesome is that? I mean, a hall of rock guitars? That's just cool. I want to know where Boba shot down the Rolling Gales. The hangar bay looked like it was on Tatooine, but the rest of the city looked like it had some awfully tall towers for Tatooine. And besides that, I don't recall Tatooine ever having a massive obliterated city. Wherever it was easily forgotten after being followed by an amazing and immersive shot of Tatooine's Grand Arena, which hasn't been seen, by me at least, since The Phantom Menace. But before I go on to that, I just discerned why Jay agreed that they were just a band, and then went on to lead a rescue mission of sorts. He agreed that they were just a band because he realized that posing as nothing more than Gee's old bandmates could convince Jabba to let them play one last time. Of course, their one last song with the full band turned into a sponsored encore that allowed Gee to live. That said, let's take a look at the biggest band performance ever seen on Tatooine. The 3D animation used for the awe-inspiring shot of the Grand Arena was truly amazing. The establishing shot of the arena from The Phantom Menace started from the left side of the arena and moved in from there. But the camera angle in this episode not only started from the right, but moved much faster, and zoomed in as if flying through spectators on the way to their seats, showing just how much animation has evolved since then. And then, of course, we got one heck of a musical performance from Starwaver, who played their song Galactic Dreamer amazingly. Galactic Dreamer was heavily inspired by Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones, and you can actually sing the words to one song with the beat of the other. The highlights of their performance were Jabba and Boba tapping their tails and feet, respectively, Gee really getting into the music by flopping onto the ground, Jay doing a super cool mega jump with rocket boots. Wait, there were no rocket boots. Jay jumped up with the Force. Up until this point, I would have been perfectly fine with inserting this episode into canon, but this blew it for me. Jay blatantly used the Force in front of notorious Mandalorian Boba Fett. Mandalorians are known for their legendary wars against the Jedi. Jay's action could lead to several different scenarios playing out. Can I walk you through a hypothetical? First, it could have gotten him taken by the Empire the second the performance was over. Second, Jabba may have instructed Boba not to report Jay, but then again, would Boba have listened? It all depends on who paid more, which may have been Jabba at that moment. So, let's go with Jabba ordering Boba not to report Jay. Order restored in the Jonathan verse. But what is it with writing a script that makes me answer all my own questions? There were also some interesting references to the greater Star Wars saga in the performance montage that I wanted to talk about. Firstly, the hologram droid that broadcasted Starwaver's performance first appeared in The Phantom Menace, where it broadcasted the pod race. A bantha was seen in the background of the shot where a couple of kids are bringing a view screen to share with their friends. Which brings me to my next point. The view screen is the same model as the one Anakin's mom and friends used to watch the pod race in The Phantom Menace. Next, the cantina is, of course, the same one we all know and love from A New Hope, complete with the same bartender and many of the same characters, or at least the same species as in A New Hope, but more on the species later. The costumes of the aliens are also quite similar both to the original Star Wars Kenner toy line and the costumes of the Cantina's background characters. One of my favorite details from the episode is the return of Obi-Wan's hut, shown from the exact same angle it was shown in when it debuted in A New Hope. The appearance of his hut also shows where in the timeline this episode takes place. Since there's smoke coming from the hut, I would assume that Obi-Wan must still be living in it. Besides all that, it's cool that Starwaver finally got to finish a song without Boba chasing them away. Before we get into my final two talking points, I have one more interesting detail to point out. When Jay asks Jabba if he wants to be their first sponsor, Jabba holds up a hand in response. This may be a subtle reference to ancient Roman history. You've probably heard of the Roman Colosseum, the giant stadium where gladiators fought to the death for entertainment. It's said that when a gladiator had his opponent right where he wanted him, he would look up to the emperor for whether or not to kill the opponent. It's also said that the Emperor would respond with a hand signal, just like Jabba did. Shout out to Dave Stotts of Drive Through History, the first teacher I've ever had that made ancient history interesting. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. We're almost to the end of this one, but I still have 2 points left. I talked earlier about how cool it is that this episode is music-centric, but I didn't comprehend a major point of this episode until my mom pointed it out to me. Music saved Jay's life. Take his experience with Order 66, for example. When he fell out of the corridor, he very likely would have been killed upon impact when he hit the ground, or been disabled long enough for some clones to shoot him in the back. But instead, the Force pushed him into the rolling gales, right into the arms of a music-loving hut looking for friends to make music with. Aww. Finally, we're at the second to absolute final point. Check out the soundtrack of Tatooine Rhapsody on YouTube. It's great. And the last point, the list of all the alien species that returned in the episode. Hutts like Jabba the Hutt, Rhodians like Greedo, Bith, the species that look like they have the heads of hammerhead sharks, Duros like Cad Bane, Gotal, the goat-headed species, Aqualish like the alien that Obi-Wan chopped an arm off of in the cantina, Twi'leks like Hera Syndulla, Weequay like the guy on Boba's left in the episode, Nikto like the guy on Boba's right in the episode, Pasithip, the leathery-skinned, gray, elephant-like species that have horns on their face, Ishitib, the species that have bird-like beaks, Gamorreans, the big green pig people that work for Jabba, Tatooine patty frogs, which Jabba eats, Kubaz, another elephant-like species that often wear red-lensed goggles over their sensitive eyes, Advosek, the species that have one horn near the top of their heads, Cinetine, the species with heads that look like an enlarged brain, Morcerian, the species with heads like cones tilted back and masks to help them breathe in foreign environments, Chadrafan, the short, brown-haired species that kind of look like enlarged hedgehogs, Deveronians, the species that simply looks like devils, Jawas, the brown-robed midgets with glowing yellow eyes, Arcona, the triangle-headed ET-looking species, Clatuinian, like the pug-faced skiff guard, Quarren, the squid-headed species, Thelan human, like the red-haired girl that danced for Jabba in this episode, and Banthas, the big, furry, brown elephant things. There's also half a head visible of what appears to be a harch, the species that look like a cross between humans and spiders. And that is the 26 non-human species that returned in the episode. And I now have a challenge for you, viewers. There's one more species in the episode that I believe I've seen before, but I could not find online. It's your job to track down this mysterious species and comment the name of the species below or email it to me. My email is clonewithawand@gmail.com. Here's a picture of him. The first person to correctly identify the species will get a shout out in my next Visions breakdown. I look forward to hearing your responses. At long last, that is all. That's literally everything I thought and noticed about Star Wars Visions, Episode 2, Tatooine Rhapsody. Remember that if you want to get a shout out in my next Visions breakdown, all you have to do is identify the species of this guy and either comment below or email me. And as always, feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Hi, I'm Jonathan, and you've been watching Clone with a Wand broadcast.